Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Closer, way closer.
Today, we give context to the occasion. We're going to start with a short.
We cannot hear you, Maharaj. Maybe it's not even on.
We're going to start with a short history lesson. And soon from the perspective of Lord Brahma. In the higher administration of the universe, when Lord Vishnu sees it is time to wind up and conclude the cosmic manifestation, its current purpose having been fulfilled, he inaugurates a very severe drought, which lasts for 100 years, during which time, from above, the sun's rays parch the three worlds, after which, from below, a huge inferno emanating from the heavy breathing of Lord Sankarshan and driven by powerful universal winds, blasts upwards, scorching everything in its path. This is followed by hordes of Samvartika clouds gathering across the sky to submerge what's left of the universe in underwater darkness and silence. And you might be wondering at this point what this has to do with Gaura Purnima. On the waters of dissolution, when everything else is gone and silent and dark, an effulgent golden lotus remains unaffected. That lotus consists of 9 islands, whose names combinedly is Navadvip. It's the 9 islands. In the form of a golden lotus. Eternally unaffected by material conditions. So whether it be the end of Brahma's day, at which there is partial dissolution, or the end of his life, when the annihilation is complete, when he either way, when he wakes up, there's a sequence in which the Vedas, which emanate from Lord Brahma's mouths, are stolen by the demons. Because their agenda is to keep the masses in ignorance so they can be controlled and exploited by demoniac powers, for which which the first step is steal the Vedas. This is why Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita addresses Krishna as Madhusudana, the killer of that Madhu demon who stole the Vedas. And after Krishna, in whatever form, rescues the Vedas, at the time of the dissolution of the universe, Matsya Avatar, beautiful golden fish with lotus eyes, he rescues the Vedas, and using Vasuki as a rope, pulls this great ark holding the Vedas and the sages and rishis who are masters of the different branches of Vedic knowledge. As they float upon the waters of dissolution in this great ark, they are pulled by Matsya to the shore of Vidanagar, which is the town in Navadvip, where Nimai, soon to become Pandit, went to school. And the indication of that holy place today is 9 trees which cannot be identified as belonging to this world, and are the result of when Nimai could not find a pen holder, so he didn't have pens like we do now. They used to have either quills or twigs carved out. And he stuck them into the ground, and they quickly grew into trees. And when creation resumes with Brahma's day, the sages and rishis who had gathered and clustered in Navadvip, they branch out in all directions to disseminate the 64 branches of Vedic knowledge for the welfare of the world, while the source of that wisdom remains eternally in Vidanagar. It was there that Narada Muni compiled the Panchavataka and taught his disciple Valmiki the Ramayana. It is there that Vyasadeva wrote the Puranas, and Dhanvantari the Ayurveda, and Lord Shiva the Tantras, and Brahma the Vedas. Kapila compiled Sankhya there, and Patanjali the Yoga Sutras. The Upanishads were very fortunate because they heard a voice addressing them that your voidism or your perspective of voidism has spoiled everything. And when I appear as a devotee, you will have a different attitude, whereby you will chant the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, resplendent with the most exquisite qualities and form, with very eager voices, you'll glorify Him. There, in Vidanagar, Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods, established his academy. And he knew that his impersonalist teaching would displease Nimai, who had yet to take birth, because of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's emphasis on jnana. So, understanding that I am his eternal servant, and he will come to me, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya accepted the invitation of King Prataparudra to move his academy to Jagannath Puri, confident that the Lord would come there in time. Vrindaban is across the Ganga from Mother Sati's house, so he would cross the river by ferry every day with his dear friend Raghunath and classmate. Raghunath was very keen on the Navya Nyaya, which means logic, which was the one branch of knowledge that was not preeminently taught in Navadvip, being the exclusive right of the scholars of Mithila, who were very keen not to allow any of their textbooks into the hands of Bengalis, who through their touch and influence would eclipse the glory of Mithila. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya overcame this obstacle by going to Mithila and studying the Nyaya as taught there, and then returning to Vrindaban, where under his presentation it became known as the Nava Nyaya, which some people think is the reason for the name Navadvip. Navadvip Dham was the foremost city, the zenith of cultural and intellectual eminence. And Falgun is the most delightful month in that region, and Purnima, the most auspicious time. And an eclipse is considered most inauspicious, except for the fact that the devotees are all chanting Hare Krishna to counteract the inauspicious effects of the darkness caused by an eclipse. And since there is an inner incentive to their chanting, which was to proclaim the very Lord whose name they sang, their exquisite enthusiasm was so contagious that even the Muslims joined in the kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Which made that evening, Gaura Purnima, beyond most auspicious. So this was a period when Lord Gaura appeared, when the supreme literary and academic emphasis set the scene and inaugurated a series of events culminating in Shikshastakam. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Before Lord Gaura will conclude this teachings by condensing and crystallizing everything in the Shikshastakam. He first chose to rise to preeminence among all the pundits of creation, and therefore, in his youth, as Nimai Pandit, he's performing the role of the Yuga Avatar. Because parallel to his role in Krishna Lila, in liberating the demons, in Gaur Lila, since he's not killing anything other than the demoniac mentality, which was represented by the misunderstanding and misrepresentation of the different branches of Vedic knowledge by the pundits of Navadvip. And the preoccupation of the population of that region was these literary tournaments. To see who is the conquering pundit in any particular field. So Nimai, when it was time for him to go to school, he chose Gangada's Pandit as his teacher, recognizing his old instructor, Sandip Banimoni, from Krishna Lila. Went to his school, and Gangada's Pandit quickly realized he had nothing to teach him, he already knew everything. So his original name upon birth, the men wanted to name him Vishwambar, seeing that with the long drought which threatened famine ended with gentle rains arriving on his birth. So he named him Vishwambar, sustainer of the universe. The ladies preferred the name Nimai because he was born in a new tree. And that had additional significance because Mother Sachi had lost 8 daughters just after birth. And they were thinking that the antiseptic nature of the neem tree would remind Yamaraj of their misfortune and would spare one child who was therefore named Nimai, later to be also known as Gauranga. And at the time of his sannyas, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, which is a very prominent name, because the meaning, he who awakens Krishna consciousness in the hearts of all his audience, which was his most outstanding trait since the time of his birth. Just after taking birth, he began a trend that would continue forever. He was baffling everybody. He refused to take his mother's milk. He cried, but he wouldn't take his mother's milk. And then the pundits, the Vaishnavas, the senior, they understood that he's considering that since Mother Sachi is not initiated, she can't make a Brahminical offering, so he's not accepting. So they called the Dvaitacharya, he gave her initiation, and Nimai accepted her milk very happily. And yet he remained very stubborn, wayward, and mischievous. And everyone loved him all the more for it. Especially because everything was designed to induce everyone to chant the holy names. As a child, he would cry frequently, and the only thing that could pacify him was kirtan. since he was always getting in trouble, not the kind of trouble we experience from children today. It was the kind of trouble that just enchanted the heart of the Sachi. So when he grew big enough to crawl, and then later to scamper, it was a source of continuing anxiety for her. As when in the courtyard he saw a huge serpent, a cobra. And as he ran to embrace the cobra slid forward to embrace him in his coils. And Nimai just rested very peacefully in the coils of this huge white serpent. He recognized the serpent and not the sheesh, but nobody else could. Seeing him in the coils of the cobra was somewhat reminiscent of Kalya Lila, causing him so much anxiety. And seeing the anxiety of the devotees, that huge serpent very sadly crawled off, and Nimai ran off after him, pursuing all kinds of adventures. And you hear in his childhood past, and he's always running off into the streets. Part of the reason why was because, Sri Gaura mentioned, as in CC purports, that in that culture, which was so conservative, the ladies would generally, not without some very good reason, they would not leave the house unless carried in a palanquin. And even to go bathe in the Ganges, they would go in a palanquin, and the men would just submerge the palanquin in the water. In that way, the ladies would maintain a high standard of chastity. So whenever Nimai was in trouble with Mother Sachi, which was most of the time, he would run out into the streets, and she would follow, but she was reluctant. So one day out in the streets, a thief, seeing how he was so beautifully ornamented with jewels that was worth a fortune, the thief kidnapped him. And he's offering him ladus so that he would come along happily, riding on the shoulder of the thief who was going to take him to his hideout, where he would murder the child and steal his jewels. And he kept saying, "Come with me, little child." And he said, "Yes, I'm coming. Just keep feeding me ladus." As they ran, and the thief experienced the Lord's deluding potency. He was convinced he was taking the path to his hideout, and he thought that he arrived there, and he put Nimai down only to find that he had returned into his own home right at the point when his relatives had become so frantic that they had lost all hope, or on the verge of death, and then out of nowhere, this man comes, delivers their lost child, and they were so elated they wanted to reward him with the best gifts they had, and then he just ran away so fast. What a strange person. He was so charming, with his lotus eyes elongated like a lotus, tinged red around the borders, always moist, as if with lotus honey. And people would question, is he the offspring of human beings or a divine child descended from above? And continual supernatural events prevailed. I mean, right from the time of his birth, the demigods were performing pranks. And you can't normally see demigods because they have subtle bodies, but Mother Sachi was seeing and strange, luminous figures moving around. And she was afraid of ghosts, evil spirits. So she was always chanting Hare Krishna for the child's protection. One night she saw the entire room filled with these luminous figures, and fearing for Nimai's safety, she took him to Jagannath Mishra's room, who was walking to her room to take Nimai, and they both heard the music of jingling ankle bells on his feet, moving, chiming according to his movements. He didn't have any ankle bells on his ankles. He thought, where is this sound coming from? And they concluded that Gopal Krishna, was somehow present in the boy. And even when he cried, he was sweeter than music. And he would dance with unearthly grace. You see, from the time he was born, he would cry simply so that everyone would chant Hare Krishna, which was the only way to stop him from crying. When he grew just a little bit, big enough to scamper around in the streets, he would scoot out in the middle of kirtan and then immediately return with all kinds of sweetmeats, which with his own tiny tender hands he would so lovingly distribute to everyone who was chanting Hare Krishna, to assure them, if you serve me in chanting the holy name, I will personally take care of your sustenance, preserving what you have and carrying what you lack, to ensure you move forward and never fall back. He was so beautifully formed, with a luster as radiant as the moon, exquisite wide chest, tapering into a slender waist, decorated with a dhoti, so artistically dressed by Mother Sachi, and his face painted with elegant designs, his hair combed by Mother Sachi and tied in a top knot, encircled and adorned with golden champak flowers, in such a way that his entire audience would be totally enraptured to such an extent that his appearance, combined with his tactics to induce everyone to chant Hare Krishna, just lured the consciousness of everyone away from material existence. And when he danced, they felt their hearts dancing in movement with his gestures. And they felt, under his influence, that on a deeper level, there is nothing but joy in all the world. And the whole universe was dancing under his influence. And they felt that the Supreme Lord must be so joyful as to be showering upon them the Ananda of Goloka. And his influence inspired feelings of such deep humility that they would do anything for his pleasure, which was very challenged on Ekadasi Day, when none of the normal tactics succeeded in stopping him from crying. asked him, what is it that you want? So he's just a few years old at this point, but he was very crystal clear. I want the offering that Jagadish and Hiranyapada made for their Gopal deity today. He didn't even know these people. They were friends of Jagannath Mishra living on the other side of the Ganges. And children at that age, they don't even know it's Ekadasi. They don't specifically tell them, which they haven't done. That I want the special Ekadasi offering that these devotees prepared for their deity. I want you to offer it to me instead of the deity. This was shocking. And to Mother Sachi, this was total sacrilege. And he said, Nimai, you're breaking our hearts by this demand. We will make you such a nicer feast, so please be happy. And he said, no, I want that or nothing. What to do? Jagannath Mishra went to visit his friends and told them, I am in such a dilemma. This is what Nimai is demanding. And they were surprised. How did he know that we made a special feast for our deity today? So they told Jagannath Mishra, well, why don't we go talk to him? Now remember, he's just a few years old. You're not going to have a rational conversation with a child at that age when he's in the midst of a temper tantrum. But they went. And what they discovered was that his beauty and sweetness was paradoxically enhanced in the midst of this drama. And he told them again, just make your offering to me. So they brought him the entire offering. He accepted and distributed his remnants to all onlookers. And Jagadish and Hiranyapada understood intuitively. This is a divine intuition, which is a gift of faith to those who please the Lord, that it was definite, undoubtedly, their Gopal deity demanding that this offering be made through little Nimai. And this just thrilled their hearts to no end. And as they made the offering, with the mantra, take to your full satisfaction, beautiful Nimai, so that our beloved Gopal will relish our service through you. And after that, those Brahmins became little Nimai's ardent followers. And one day, when a very devoted Brahmin guest arrived, Nimai told Mother Sachi, accept him as your son, because I'm going home now. And then very abruptly, all life symptoms left him, and he collapsed on the ground. And everyone was so frantic. And when they revived him, that Brahmin made his residence in Navadvip. Now it was Murari Gupta, who was Hanuman from Ramnima, who's telling this story to Damodar Pandit. And it's a little perplexing. And he asked, what did he mean? I'm going home now. And Murari Gupta said, you think I understand what it means? his thoughts are beyond our comprehension. But I'll offer my understanding, and if you find it reasonable, you can accept it. The absolute truth is ever seeking entry into a heart who is open to receive him. And he makes his residence in the heart of his servants, from where his pastimes and precepts are forever revealed. Now, yesterday, we considered Gaura Purnima, the way the Vaishnavacharyas presented through the esoteric perspective, which might seem a little abstract for our limited empiric experience, preferring tangible understanding. So when we talk about things like kalpavriksha, surabhi, chintamani dust, lakes of nectar, and when Rukmini was wondering, because in her palace in Dwarka, she observed that Krishna has a lot of trouble sleeping. Throughout the night, he would be calling for cows and gopis, and it was apparent and troubling to her that while living physically, not really physically, because his body is made of eternal consciousness, but while his form is residing in Dwarka, his heart remains in Vrindaban. And she was wondering, what is it? We offer him all opulence and reverential devotion here in Dwarka, and he's not even really with us. He's so distracted. And they understood that he's an inmate of Vrindavan. What is it? And that's what was being reenacted in the Haripanchami, which we discussed yesterday. What is it about Vrindavan? And then, as Lord Brahma proclaims in his Samhita, that is the land where all the trees are kalpavriksha, all the cows, kamadenas, all the dust, chintamani, all the lakes filled with nectar, all motion is dance, all sound is song, and is all activated by Lord Krishna's flute. But that still doesn't really explain why he is eternally bound to that Chintamani Dham. And the reason is that when you're surrounded by kalpavrikshas, kamadenas, chintamani dust, each of which is competent to give anything you want, including what you really want and don't even know what you really want, what is it that anybody wants in Braj, whether it be Krishna or his servants? It's only love and the ingredients to express that love. And that's why he's bound eternally to Vrindavan, even after he moves on to Mathura and Dwarka. Because that is the atmosphere that offers all the components for intimate love. And you can see some manifestation of that in Chaitanya Lila. And Vishnu doesn't create Navadvip Dham, but he contributes to the creation. So before Gaura Lila began, he could see in his devoted vision of the future that on the night of delivering the Chankasi, when the Lord led Kirtan on and on and on, he would be so oblivious to his own feelings that he would become very thirsty at a certain point. So Sri Vishwakarma, knowing where that would transpire, which is right behind Jagannath's temple. Jagannath's temple of the Shabara is right behind there. He would, from that point as the center, he would create around the circumference 7 crystalline ponds filled with celestial nectar. So every direction the Lord turned, he would have an opportunity to quench his thirst. So, you know, at the conclusion of delivering the Chankasi, that governor, Muslim governor, he wanted to go with Lord Naranga as the Kirtan party continued down the road. And Lord Naranga told him, no, you better stay in your palace. And he accepted without knowing why. But there was something very intimate about to transpire. And that was that they were approaching the hermitage of Kolabit Sridhar, who in Braj Leela is Kusharabhita, a cowherd boy. Now, even in or you could even say, especially in Gurlila, cowherd folks are especially significant because they are milkmaids. What's the masculine of milkmaids? Milkmen. Milkmaids and milkmen in the truest sense of the word. And this has deep theological significance, because even the best Surabhi cow still needs a milkman or a milkmaid. And even the finest honey cannot taste itself, or the most refined musical instrument, it can't play itself. Each of them needs an assistant, because the real pleasurable experience is in the exchange, which is rasa, which is fluid, which is moving between one and another. So Kolabit Sridhar was a banana merchant, which in Navadvip, which is nicknamed the Garden of all Bengal, where bananas grow everywhere, which means that selling bananas in Navadvip is almost like selling coal in Scranton, where people don't even want to see it. Not a very lucrative business. That was not his intention. Because there's so much deeper purpose involved. Kolabit Sridhar was a devotee of Mother Ganga, who's intimately related to Lord Gauranga. Because in Krishna Lila, Ganga Devi was seeing that her sister Jamuna was so blessed to offer sporting pastimes to Krishna that she performed intense tapasya for a similar blessing, and the Lord appeared to her and said, when I take birth in Navadvip, I will sport in your waters just as Krishna does in Jamuna. So Kolabit Sridhar, he not only tried to make a living by selling bananas, but he would sell them at the cheapest rates. And everybody knew he was honest, as was Yudhisthira, and they would come to him for the best prices. I mean, it wasn't just bananas, and everything related to the bananas, the flowers, the leaves for plates. And amongst his regular customers was Nehemiah. Every day would come, and he'd take whatever he wanted, a bunch of bananas or a flour, say, how much for this? And Kolovets Sridhar would quote, the best price in town. And Nehemiah, what? What do they call it? Price gouging? You're cheating the poor brahmanas by your exorbitant rates? He said, no, actually it's the best rate in town. You can check anywhere, you can go anywhere else if you like. No. Is that it? Price gouging? Something like that. Now, Kolovets Sridhar was so impoverished. He lived in a state of semi-starvation. And Lord Gauranga would point it out very dramatically that you're actually hoarding a great fortune. And then he'd go in his house, not house, little thatched hut, and search the whole place. And go, what are you doing? You have a treasure here, and you're hiding it, and you're indulging on it in private. And I'm going to reveal and expose you to the world in time. What are you talking about? Because Nehemiah would always harass him. Look at you. Your dhoti has more holes than cloth. Your little thatched hut. Look at the roof. You can see more sky than leaves. And you worship Mother Ganges? What's wrong with this picture? And he said, but I'm still covered and I still have shelter and I'm happy to serve Mother Ganga. And every day he would just harass him for considerable periods of time. And then, Nehemiah, he was 7 feet tall, which is exceptional for Bengalis. And Kolovets Sridhar is just this little Bengali banana-wala. Looking at this luminous, this looming golden figure towering above him, threatening, I'm going to expose you. What are you talking about? And then finally, what can I do to make peace between us? Because he was thinking, he may even harm me. So he said, what can I offer you for peace? And he would point to his thatched hut, on which a vine grew. And on that vine was a pumpkin. He said, if you give me that pumpkin, you will experience great peace. So he took it. He would come back regularly. As soon as the next pumpkin was ripe, he would come back and call it Sri Gaura offer the pumpkin. Another time he asked, why are you harassing me like this? He said, Sridhar, you don't know who I am. You worship Mother Ganga, and yet to realize my toe is the source of your Mother Ganga. He said, Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. He's gone now. Just take your pumpkin and be peaceful. And yet, the reason he sat there on the roadside selling his wares is he was waiting for Nehemiah to visit every day. So he never understood, what is going on here until the night of the Mahaprakash, which was when the Lord revealed his supreme His glory. And all the devotees were drawn to Sri Rasa's house that night. And the Lord did something He would do intermittently at times, like when He was not in His proper mind, but this time He was really intentional. He ascended the altar, put the deity on His lap, and proclaimed to the devotees, "Now worship me." And He was in that mood of Aishwarya, as Ishvara, for 21 hours straight. And the devotees were coming, and there was a certain pattern to the exchange. He would first tell the devotees the pastimes He had enacted with them before they realized He was the Supreme Lord. Like the Gangadas Purnima. Remember that night that you fled out of fear of the attacking Moguls, fearful that they would abuse your wife and children. But when you reached the Ganges, there was no boat to cross over. And in a state of desperation, fearing that you couldn't even protect your wife and children, that the Moguls would come and you'd be finished. And then out of nowhere, a boat arrived. And a ferryman approached you and said, "I'll take you over to the other side." And then he realized that was the Lord. And then he was calling all the devotees and revealing similar exchanges, crying out of such love. Told the devotees, bring Golovet Sridhar. Nobody had ever even heard of Golovet Sridhar. He was just virtually unknown. So the Lord gave directions to his hut. He gave specific directions. They said, when you get in the neighborhood, just listen for someone chanting Hare Krishna with such emotion. That'll be him. So they went, and they found him. And they told him, the Lord is calling for you. He's calling for me. He was so overwhelmed with love that he fell unconscious on the floor. The devotees picked him up. Now remember that this is a very sophisticated culture. And now you have 4 exalted gentlemen carrying this little banana wallet on their shoulders into the Mahaprakash, still unconscious until the Lord called to them. Sridhar, open your eyes and behold my eyes. When he opened his eyes, he saw not only the Lord and the altar, the whole house was luminous with golden aura. And at the feet of Lord Gauranga, this demigods, Brahma, Shiva, Shuka, Narada, all praising the Lord, and his own Ganga Devi, riding on her carrier, was there worshiping Lord Gauranga. And then suddenly dawned on him that what he said, "I am the source of your Ganges," he was actually literal. Now, in the Mahaprakash, and after the devotees would praise him with eloquent prayers, heartfelt, personal, he would reciprocate in such a way as to fulfill their deepest yearnings. So, Golovet, sing my glories. He said, "What do I know about prayer?" He said, "No, just whatever you say will be perfect." And he said, let's give a synopsis. He said, "Every day when you came to me, I could not recognize who you were." So the Lord said, "Now You have lived a life of devotion in abject poverty, in semi-starvation, out of love for your worshipable goddess Ganga Devi, who is my servant. Now I want to reciprocally reward you. What do you want? No. You have to ask, because I offered. What do you want? Would you like a kingdom? I can make you a king of many kingdoms, emperor of many kings. No. That I can give you mystic perfections, yogic cities. No. And the Lord went through the list of what anybody would want, and he wasn't inclined. Well, what do you want? Listen. All I could ask is that wrangling smart, that controlling young, continue to come to my booth every day. And harass me, steal from me. And still my heart. The Lord's touch so weird. So we went back to Vishwakarma's vision. After the kirtan party left Jamakazi's palace, and Lord Gauranga is leading the kirtan. And the devotees didn't know where they were going. They ended up at Kulavich Sridhar's hermitage. Now, Kulavich Sridhar had one item in his possession: a broken iron pot. Now, iron is low class. When the pot is broken, it is used for menial purposes like washing his feet before he entered his house. And even a thief wouldn't steal it. So useless. It was his only possession. So Lord Gauranga, he reached Kulavich Sridhar's hut, and suddenly dawned on him he was so thirsty from leading kirtan for so long. He's right in the middle. He's surrounded on all sides by the crystalline ponds of celestial nectar offered by Vishwakarma for this purpose. Where did he go? To Kulavich Sridhar's broken iron pot. He lifted it up and he drank the water. And Kulavich Sridhar came out of his hut and he saw, now I'm finished. The Lord, whose feet is the source of my deity, Ganga Devi, is reciprocating with me by drinking the water that I used to wash my feet. And again, he just felt unconscious. And then the sequence continues. The night that Lord Gauranga, he had only confided in a few devotees, Lord Nityananda, and a few others, that he would leave Navadvip, take sannyas on that evening. And by the influence of yoga mind, all the devotees not knowing, they came to Satchi's house. And they brought garlands, which they would place on him, and then he would give the former garland from the last devotee to them. And the exchange was so sweet and loving. They were just oblivious to the trauma and the calamity about to befall. And then it's getting late at night, and he was thinking, I fulfilled my obligations. I can leave home, take sannyas, and pursue my aspiration to go to Vrindaban, to find Krishna. So he was thinking, now everything's all settled. I've reciprocated properly with everyone. The path is clear and free. And then there was a knock on the door. Who's that? That was Coleridge, sweetheart, with his pumpkin. And he told her, remember your promise that if I give you my pumpkin, you won't hurt me. And he knew that that was actually Lord Gaura's favorite meal. You know, we say in the Bhajana, you know, shock, prepare my mother Sachi. There's actually one thing he preferred even more, and that was Coleridge Srihar's pumpkin, cooked by Mother Sachi with milk and salt and pepper. So meanwhile, I told Mother Sachi, make that offering now. And that was the last meal, so to speak. So, the house of Chandrasekhar was the place where they performed dramas. And, you know, reminiscent, not reminiscent, but actually reenacting Lila and other things. So, Lord Gaura, he proclaimed one night that now, tonight, I'm going to perform a dance, not the usual spontaneous type during kirtan, but in conformity with the required dramatic protocol called Anka. So he told the devotees, now go out and collect saris and bangles and ornaments and all. What do you need those for? And he said, no, it'll be appropriate for the different characters. And then he began assigning the roles. The elder planet would be Brajadevi, with Brahmananda as her chaperone. Lord Gauranga, who is appearing at this time, is going to dance as his own in the mood and attire and gestures of his own internal potency, for whom Lord Nityananda will be the chaperone. And he said, and Srivas Thakur had settled, you'll be Narada Muni. Haridas Thakur, you'll be the constable. And they said, well, who will be the presiding deity? He said, Gopinath on the altar will be the presiding deity. So Lord Chaitanya said, I'm going to dance in the form and attire and mood and gestures of my own internal potency, my prakriti. And the only ones eligible to behold this performance are those who have complete control over their senses. Well, the devotees were immersed in great joy until they heard that qualification, and the devotees said, well, that leaves me out. Srivas said, well, that leaves me out. And they all, from the joy of what was imminent, they felt the deep anguish. And Lord Chaitanya, he told them, no. If you all decline to attend, then with whom and for whom shall I dance? So I will give you my sweet assurance that tonight you will all be exquisite masters of your senses. And then the joy not only returned, but excelled. And they began kirtan, and then Haridas Thakur with a big turban, and he was in a very humorous mood. He was twirling his mustache. He said, I am the constable to patrol and make sure that everyone is very attentive. And he had a big patrolling, commanding everyone, love Krishna, serve Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. I'm the chieftain of the city, so you better be obedient to my command and attentive to this performance, because my master has left Vaikuntha to come here and distribute love for himself amongst all of you. So be very attentive to receive what he is bestowing tonight. And he kept twirling his mustache and running around. He ran off the stage, and here comes Narada Muni. It's actually Srivas Thakur, but because he was carrying the veena, and his friend was playing Parvata Muni, even his own wife couldn't recognize him. So Malini asked Sachi, "Is that my husband?" She said, "Well, if you can't recognize him, I don't think I can." And then he spoke, or sang. I was rolling throughout Vaikuntha, and I found the whole place empty. And I understood that Krishna had come here. So I've come to see him dance in the attire of his internal potency. Meanwhile, in the dressing room, Gadadhar Pandit and others, seeing that the Lord was writing on the ground, using his finger for a pen and his tears for ink, was writing a letter to Krishna to please rescue me from having to marry Shishupal. And well, he's in the mood of Rukmini. So they dressed him accordingly. And he himself was oblivious to his identity as the Ishvara. He's totally immersed in the mood of his internal potency. And then when he walked onto the stage, and the different devotees were seeing him through different perspectives according to their own bhavas and rasas. Some were thinking, is this Kamala lady risen from the churning of the North Ocean? Or Sri Janaki, consort of Lord Ram? And then Mother Sachi had to ask Malini, do you know who's performing that role? Mother Sachi couldn't recognize her own son. Because he's so much identified with his internal potency. And his outer form and identity dissolved. And those who were blessed with the vision of the Lord dancing in the form, attire, and mood of his internal potency felt so immersed in a mood like a child for the mother who had reappeared from the realm of the departed, that they wept uncontrollably. And then Lord Garuda, in the mood of Rukmini, his bhava changed, and he told her chaperone, Lord Nityananda, in the form of an old lady, my dear chaperone, that is Guru Vrindaban. At which point it was very clear that he's in the mood of the princess of Varsana. And by implication in this Leela, he's issuing a stern warning to all. Never, disrespect my energies. Because it is only by honoring them that I will be pleased to bestow faith upon you. I'm greatly pained by acts of hostility towards any of my energies. And they saw the Lord in the very figure of serving love. As the very model of grace and loving inclination, would also expand as the form of the earth to nourish all her children, each of whom pray according to their various perspectives, and their prayers all integrated with the all-pervading Hare Krishna Kirtan. And when the first rays proclaiming the imminent sunrise entered the windows, and the devotees realized the night is coming to an end and the strong is about to be concluded, they looked toward the rising sun with glances which would have burned the sun god to ashes if Lord Gaura had not intervened, and how did he do so? Taking the form and mood of the Universal Mother there on the throne, taking all devotees on her lap, imparting sentiments of children upon them, and with great maternal love, he fulfilled his assurance in Bhagavad Gita that I am the father, grandfather, mother, and nurse of all the world. And the verse that we considered yesterday as prophetic is actually more applicable to Srila Prabhupada, his mission, his service, his followers, than it is to Lord Gaura himself. HH Swami, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, the internal causes for the appearance of Lord Gaura states, in very wholesome context, after revealing his internal sentiments for appearing in this world, he issues that prophecy, which is clearly more applicable to Srila Prabhupada than it is to Lord Gaura himself. He wove a wreath of the holy name and Braja praying with which he garlanded all the earth. And that is the cause and purpose for our existence in life. And on this day of Lord Gauranga's appearance, in the most magnanimous becomes even more magnanimous. We can please him by what he made most clear, that when my servants, my energies, are properly honored, I am pleased to bestow faith upon you. Faith in the holy name, faith in devotional service, faith in the Guru, faith in the grace of the devotees, and faith that that process of serving Srila Prabhupada's mission to the destination that Lord Gauranga wanted for us as the purpose for his taking birth in this world. That all living entities, by the nourishing shelter of the holy name, find peace, and purpose, and fulfillment in life, culminating in returning back home, back to Godhead. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Personal. That's scary.
What is your? I can see that you like the story about Kalabacheshwara. What's so special there, or maybe what's so special for you, and what's so special? I still don't get it. I only ask you that question.
It's not one thing; it's so many things. It's the rasa. Because in the exchange, Kulaveshwar worshipped Gangadevi because she emanates from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Lord Gauranga worships Kulaveshwar, or by demonstrating his preference for the water that washed his feet, in preference to all those crystalline nectar ponds surrounding him in all directions. He preferred to continue and expand the reciprocation in the love of the servant of his servant. And the ongoing competition, who could please serve and satisfy the other more. And also, there's many things, but, you know, this very deep and esoteric principle of Krishna's inability to reciprocate the love of his devotees is actually more than reciprocated, and the debt is more than repaid in full in Chaitanya. So that debt was to the cowherds. And included Sridhar from that cowherd community as the Gopa Krishna is revealing in Chaitanya Lila the same, even more sweetness as the love of Krishna for the cowherd folk, which, as we said, are very crucial because they are cowherds in the truest sense of the word. Because a servant needs milkman, she can't milk herself. She requires cowherds, as does the Lord Gauranga require cowherds to milk the essence of ras, which exists within him. He knows that he feels it, but he can't taste it. because it takes reciprocation to draw it forth and make it flow. And as an eminent member of the global community, called as Sri Gaura, fulfilled that role and reached ourselves everywhere. And it's just such a great assurance to all of us that what do we really have to offer for the Lord's pleasure? We have all nectar to choose from. We prefer the water in that broken pot. That's great assurance to us. However impoverished we may be, we all have something to offer. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much.